evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the June 4th, 2019 regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board. Morgan, would you like to start us with a roll call?
Yes. Raymond Layton.
Here.
Sonny Luzo. Aaron Beatty.
Here.
Don Black.
Here.
Willie Newkirk Sr. Carol Williams. Present. Pat Doherty.
Here.
Jeff Midget. Jerry Walker.
Here.
Marshall Ballard. We do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Our next item of business is approval of minutes. I didn't see any of those in our packet, so I assume we'll be catching up on a gaggle of meetings here before too long.
Yes, sir.
Our next item is election of officers. We have decided to defer that until our next meeting when we can have a greater presence of our board members, perhaps. And likewise with our presentation of certificates, some of the members that would be receiving those certificates are not here, and so we'll again defer that until our next meeting. So that brings us to our first item of new business, which is consideration of a request from the City of New Bern to rezone approximately 294 acres from I-1 and I-2 industrial districts to R10 residential district. The properties are further identified as Craven County Parcel ID numbers 8-244-033, 8-242-096, 8-244-4000, 8-242-9000, 8-244-2000, and 8-244-021, and all of these are located in Ward 5. Morgan, would you like to give us the staff review of this item?
Certainly. So this parcel has historically been utilized as a former rock quarry, which explains why it was strangely zoned industrial at one point. You know that has ceased. The parcel was donated to the city by Martin Marietta. The plan is for it to eventually be Martin Marietta Park. And for us to be able to allow all of these wonderful amenities that they want to provide, we have to rezone it, and that's why we're here. And Foster Hughes is here tonight if you have any questions regarding the plan.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right, so is there any board discussion on this item before I open it up for public comment?
I have a question, comment. If for some reason or whatever reason this isn't rezoned and it remains an I-2, would that legally allow another firm like Martin Marietta to come back in and begin to reuse this?
It's already been traded. It's already been submitted to the
It's
city.
a done deal with the property.
Mm-hmm.
It's
The
just
deeds
a
are
zoning
set.
at this point.
Yes, sir. The deeds have been settled. It's been transferred over. It will be the City of New Bern's forever.
Regardless of what the zoning is.
Well, be ours. Yes. It was donated by Martin Marietta.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
I have a question about some of our zoning ordinances, the classifications of it. Is there any other kind of zoning in the land use ordinance that would allow recreational parks as opposed to R10?
Let me defer that to Brad really quickly. 1 second, please. Brad, can you speak on that?
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, most of our residential districts would allow you to put a park in place. It's very common for residential neighborhoods to have parks, and that's why they're allowed in those districts.
That's not my question. I was wondering, is there a specific class of zoning that is exclusively for recreational parks
No,
in
sir.
our land use ordinance?
No. The parks are just a subcategory that are allowed in most residential and some other types of zoning districts. We do not have a park-exclusive zoning district.
And is any of this land, I'm very happy to see the recreational use for this property. I think we can use more parks. Is any of this land also for housing, as we're going to need more housing, especially with the development?
My understanding is that the terrain, the topography, and what with it being an abandoned mine, it just isn't really feasible to use it in any other way aside from recreational type uses or just passive, leaving it to sit. So I believe that's the reason that this particular route has been taken.
That is true, and also you'll see in the future land use map that it's designated as conservation because the land suitability is least suitable for development. So it will not be residential or any kind of use of like that.
Should also be noted probably that a good portion of this, and I would venture to guess 20% to 30% is underwater.
That too. And vast majority is also within a 900-year floodplain. I think almost 80% of it is,
Right.
if not more.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion before I open for public comment? Okay. Hearing none at this time, I will open this item for public comment. I'd ask anyone who'd like to speak in favor of the application, please step to the podium and clearly state your name and address for the record.
My name is Foster Hughes. I'm Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of New Bern. And I just would like to make a comment that the city is really excited about what the potential for Martin Marietta Park has for this community. Overall, it's an 850-acre parcel of land. We've received several grants to start working on the first phase for this project. The information that you have, you see the overall master plan for the park, which could take many, 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 many years to overall develop. And our first phase for this will include adding some restrooms, a playground, picnic shelters, restrooms, improving the infrastructure of the park, having several trails, fishing access, and things like that. And so we are very excited about this project. And if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer anything you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Hughes? Okay. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the application? Okay. Anyone like to speak in opposition of the application? Please step to the podium and clearly state your name and address for the record. Okay. Seeing none, at this time I will close the public comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion before I entertain a motion. And before we have any other discussion, I'll just remind you that because this is a rezoning application, our motion and our action tonight will be a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen.
Excuse me. So I'm indifferent. I'm not for it. I'm not against it.
Okay, you certainly can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that wasn't as black and white as I made it sound.
Well, I have some property right across the street from it. And like I said, I'm not for or against it.
If you would state your name and address for the...
My name is Tina Metz.
Thank you, sorry.
And I have several rental properties across the street. 1011 South Glenbrony is one of them.
Okay.
I guess my question is, my property is R6. And how will that affect that property, my property, in reference to the R10? And, you know, if I wanted to do something on my property, how will that affect me? Will changing that property to R10? I'm kind of confused.
It should not. And in fact, changing it to R10 really brings it in alignment with the zoning in the area. The industrial zoning is, it's not spot zone necessarily, but it's a little out of place. And so all of the residential zonings, R6, R10, all of those are more or less in line with one another.
Okay.
So if you wanted to rezone your property, maybe it's what you're trying to say at some point, you'd simply have to come before us with an application.
Okay.
But if you're talking keeping it as an R6, it has no bearing on your property.
Perhaps if we could explain to her what's the difference in an R6 and an R10?
Yeah, so, and we can probably get Brad to do that, but on a very basic level, an R6 has a
Lower density.
requirement for minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet, and an R10 has a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet. That's pretty basic description of the two. If we need something more specific, I would ask Brad to come up and do that for us.
Okay. I guess, you know, I have looked at doing multiple things on my property, and I've just kind of sit tight, but, you know, one being a multi-dwelling. And so I don't know where that affects, because in the past when I spoke to some of the building inspectors, they said I may have to have a rezone, but they didn't see it being an issue. But with this coming effect, I just was curious of how that would affect me.
It should not affect your property. I mean, an R6
Right.
and an R10, even if it were being zoned to commercial, it
Right.
shouldn't affect your property.
Okay.
It's simply a matter of if you're wanting to do something that is not allowed in R6, you'd have to rezone to a suitable
Okay.
zoning.
Okay. Well, just a little bit further up the street, which we didn't receive a letter, my father has a storage facility, which is just on the same street. It's not 100 feet within, but it's,
Right?
so he's commercial at this time. How does that affect a commercial property?
That doesn't have any effect on any
Okay.
of the existing zoning.
So
in the
it
area.
doesn't financially affect any kind of, far as when you come in and evaluate land and reselling or anything of that nature?
If anything, it's only helping.
It should.
It's gonna only help?
It should only help, right?
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. And since we've reopened the public comment, anybody else like to speak about the application? If you'd please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
I'm Laurie Bowles, and I live at 3707 Dovefield Court. And I appreciate you sending me this letter with these numbers, because I had at one time in 2015, I had this printed out from the GIS office and saw that number, that 021, backs right up to our property, which is fine. The only thing I wanted to make you aware, and y'all may already know, Hurricane Florence water come up into the people beside me's backyard. I just ask if all this construction or moving land, or if there's going to be a lot of land movement, is that going to potentially cause further impact of water in future? I mean, that's hypothetical. I know nobody
Sure.
knows. But we can see occasionally water, I guess it's just a tributary or something from the Neuse River that's back there behind us, Taylor Creek.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can see it's never very deep. But I just wonder if moving the land around, if there will be movement of the land to impact that would cause more flood or anything like that. Because we've been there now 16 years, and of course Florence was the worst of any impact. And we were told that didn't flood back there at all, and our land didn't. And we're right beside of that place. But
Sure.
anyway.
Well,
That's my
to
question.
try to give you a simple answer, what is before us tonight is the rezoning. So
Right,
obviously we
right.
don't have we've been given a sort of master plan, but that doesn't detail everything that's going to happen. But to give you the simple answer, any kind of land moving activities have to be reviewed by the state of North Carolina. And so one of the things they look for in particular is to make sure that we're not encroaching on flood zones and that we're not creating any problems. Floodways is one of the things that state looks for. So that is not a concern of mine. I think there's enough regulations in place to deal with that. And this is what I would call low impact type development.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brad?
The review process for any development will require a no-rise statement on the engineered plans or whatever comes before us. That will ensure that there's not a net disturbance when
Okay.
it comes to increased flooding.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I apologize for excluding those who just had some comments. Okay, now it sounds like we may not have any more. So at this time, I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion.
I think Pat Doherty will know this better than me, but the idea of converting, unused industrial space to a public park, I think that would enhance the property values in the general vicinity. You're in the real estate business.
Well, quite a few months ago, it might have been this gentleman right here came into Keller Williams. I think it was you. gave us quite an outstanding presentation of this project. And we were all excited about it. There were all 100 and so of us. Spoke to it by other friends of mine in my same industry. And I think it's a definite positive win-win-win across the board.
Yeah, so I mean, it should be a boon to, in property values to all these people, yeah, I would think. It's a no-brainer.
Exactly, especially looking at what it is right now. Did I say that? No, across the, it's like an old quarry, right?
Okay. Thanks, Pat. Any other discussion before I entertain a motion? Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
At this point, I would like to introduce a motion to change the zoning of the county parcel numbers 8-244-033, 8-242-096, 8-244-4000, 8-242-9000, 8-244-2000, and 8-244-21 to for the Board of Aldermen to approve the rezoning of this from the current I-1 and I-2 to R10 residential.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Aldermen. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, I heard a couple of seconds.
Give it to Pat.
Yeah, okay, we'll give it to Pat. Sounds good.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so our last item of new business is an update from Mr. Black about our community impact statement subcommittee that we have formed.
Yeah. Well, we did two things this on the past meeting. One of the things should benefit all of us is that we're going to shift from the 5-day notice information packets, and we're going to move to a 10-day notice, which will give us something like 2 weekends to go over and review the agenda before we actually meet together. We had a framing session where we're trying to outline what things a community impact statement should do, and we are still very much in the framing stages of that, but the idea is to give the city planners notice on developments, and Raymond was very helpful here. He thinks that we should do it across the board for all developments. Some of them will be much simpler to do. The smaller developments, obviously, they won't have that much of impact. And on the larger developments, there will be information provided at such and such a point when so many units have opened up in a new area where there will be required expansion for schools, sanitation, rescue, perhaps traffic. And that's very much in the early stages of planning, and we have no specifics there. We're filling that out. The planning department is working with us. Mr. Ruggieri attended our meeting, and so did members of the planning board staff, and everybody seems to be working cohesively in our efforts to aid planning in the future so our city grows in a responsible and thoughtful manner.
Okay. Thank you, Don. One thing that's probably worth noting, just so we all know, the change of the 11-day forwarding of the packets to the board members, that's just a procedural thing that staff will do. It does not require any ordinance changes. Right. So they'll endeavor to get them to us with 11 days prior to our meeting. Sometimes could be 10 days, depending on the complexity of the application that they have to review and prepare for. So that's a good thing. Doesn't require any ordinance changes. However, out of this entire discussion, after we have all our meetings, it's likely that we'll be that city staff will be coming before Planning and Zoning Board with proposed changes to the ordinance to incorporate the community impact statement as a part of the process for every application. Okay. Anything else? Okay, at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
At this point, I'd like to introduce a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and several seconds again. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.